I'm not racist, but for many individuals, I bet this phrase induced a reaction. Maybe you winced, rolled your eyes, or maybe someone you know popped into your mind. This is because many of you have probably heard this phrase before and are familiar with the type of content that typically follows. This phrase, and those like it, are perfect examples of the communicative styles of colorblind racism. Colorblind racism is a theory of racial ideology developed by Eduardo Bonilla-Silva, a doctor in sociology who specializes in the area of race. He describes colorblind racism as the dominant racial ideology of the post-civil rights era. This is because until the 1960s, overt racism was a largely accepted phenomenon in the U.S., and individuals' actions and language towards minorities reflected this. It wasn't until after this Jim Crow era that obviously racist language and actions began to be seen by society as distasteful and unjust. However, though public opinion may have changed, racism didn't just disappear. And this is how the new, more subtle type of racism, colorblind racism, emerged. Colorblind racism is built off of the ideology of colorblindness, and many of us have probably heard this stated as the cliche, I don't see color, I see people. Colorblind racism and its language take this idea and highlight reasons other than color for biased views against other races, while claiming they aren't racist views because race isn't a factor being discussed. However, no matter how well these arguments are constructed, they're built around the same underlying prejudices. Colorblind racism may avoid using racial slurs, epithets, and terminology, but it can still be spotted. Here are some of the signs of colorblind racism. Semantic moves. These are the phrases used to hide racism that are often preceded or followed by the individual's actual negative racial views. Joyner Lucas's music video, I'm Not Racist, is a perfect example of this, in which one of the actors says, I'm not racist, my sister's boyfriend's black, and then he continues to spew negative comments. Projection. This is claiming that the minority is actually the racist one and excluding the majority from their inner circle, not the other way around. Diminutives. This is the use of phrases like a little angry or a little uncomfortable when discussing negative views regarding racial groups. Incoherence. This is the inability to speak when directly faced with matters regarding race. This is seen as repeating, stammering, and long pauses because if you give an opinion on a matter regarding race, then how can you continue to claim to be colorblind? So while colorblind racism may not be as overt, its underlying biases are still fairly obvious in many instances. Now, how does this apply to you? In the last 3 generations alone, America has seen tremendous change in racial ideology. My grandparents grew up with overt racism, my biracial parents in the world of colorblindness perpetuated by mixed intentions, and my generation in a society that not only attempts to embrace diversity, but to encourage it. But in order to truly do this, we must see colorblind racism for what it is, racism. Going through life playing colorblind and allowing others to do so doesn't help the problem. You may ask, isn't it a good thing to not see someone's race, but just see them as a person? And in an ideal, equitable world, maybe. However, that is not the world in which we currently live. And if we continue to try to ignore race as a component in social issues, simply using it as a measure of diversity, then how can we see the full picture?